undefeated in the conference a year ago. You get all this talent back for this season. What are the expectations for your group this year?
Just to take them one at a time, I mean, that's really all I've ever known how to do it. So, obviously the conference is important. The non-conference is important too. Just, last year we lost that first one against Texas Tech, which put us out of the not being able to host the championship game. You finish 8-0 and you would like to at least play on a neutral site field. But, we went up to Cincinnati, and those guys were outstanding. So, I hear this rumor that we're picked to win it and all that. I'm just going to have to disagree with it. I mean, what Cincinnati's put together for the last couple of years, and, Coach Fickle's been there for going on 5-6 years now. And, I know they had 12 guys drafted, so I doubt they just were relying on those guys within their program. They probably had some pretty good players behind them. So, haven't lost a game in the conference in the last couple of years, so that's going to have to be my pick.
Well, it's not a rumor. It is true. But I will tell you there was only one vote separating you guys in Cincinnati. So I guess you could toss it in the air. Anyone's bet. And Coach Fickle had the same regards for your team as well. Let's get to Chuck Sullivan, who's going to have the media members ask you some questions, Dana.
Thanks, Chris. We'll go to questions from the media. Again, raise your hand in the Zoom to get into the queue. We'll start with Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle, please.
Dana, along those lines, from reaching the championship game last year to, favorite status going into the preseason, based on your expectations, are you where you thought the program would be at this point, or are you ahead of schedule?
I don't think you put expectations on where exactly you're going to finish throughout each year. Everybody's very critical with how we started things here. We had a plan when we first got here, and continuity has been really good going in the fourth year with this program. So, yeah, I'd say we're on track and, proud of what we did last year. But at the end of the day, we didn't accomplish our goal. Our goal is to win the American Conference Championship game. We're proud that we got there. Cincinnati was an unbelievable football team last year, very deserving of a Final Four CFP berth. And they're setting the standard for what it needs to take to be able to win the American. So, year one, not good. Year two, whatever, COVID, 8 games canceled. But I do think we showed improvement. It didn't feel like it at the end of the year because, we dropped a couple of close ones at the end of the year. But I do think there is improvement. And then going into last year, it just started paying off. So I think we're better. We got most of our guys back. It's going to be hard replacing, a couple guys like Logan Hall and Pepe Williams and Marcus Jones and Cody Russi. Those guys are going to be hard to replace, but we got most of our team back, and we're adding a lot of good pieces as well. So, yes, we're on track. We've got a difficult schedule. We know that. Got to take them one at a time.
We'll go next to James Miller from the Daily Cougar, please.
Yeah, Dana, as you start to ramp things up and head into fall camp, can you just talk about just some of the things you're looking for? You've emphasized how important it is to start off on the right foot and not have a repeat of, the Tech game last year, just sort of what you're looking for in these next couple of weeks as you lead up to September 3rd.
Well, yeah, we're not really living in the past. Every team is new. It doesn't matter on what pieces you really lose, what pieces you got coming back. The dynamic of your team is really new. I mean, just like we're not going to sit there and focus on the fact that we didn't play very good against Texas Tech in the second half. Just like we're not going to focus on the fact that we had an 11-game win streak, and fell a little bit short in the championship game and then beat a good Auburn team in the bowl game. All that's done, so 2022 is different. There's all kinds of things that needs to take place right now. We had a good practice this morning. We have some off-season stuff that we do. So we got something out of today. We're going to be with our guys one more day tomorrow, and then we're going to cut them loose and let them be normal people for about 5 days, because once camp starts next Thursday, it's all business for about 5 months. So anxious to see what this team is. I think we got a good nucleus with a lot of leadership, a lot of older veteran players that have good experience and know what it takes to win in this great conference. And looking forward to next Thursday to be able to get it started.
Take the next one from Mark Berman from KRIV, please.
Dana, I know you touched on the preseason poll. Some thoughts about the fact that Luke Fickell agreed with the poll and said he would pick you.
Yeah, my thoughts, what I said earlier, I disagree with him. I pick him.
Go to the next one from Dayon Dunlap, please.
Hey, Coach Holgersen, last year you talked about how if Clayton Tune did develop well under you in year 3, that you would say that you wouldn't do a good job coaching. He obviously excelled. So what's the next level that he can tap into in his development coming into his last year?
Yeah, should be improved in every area of his game. I was very proud of how he improved last year. I've always believed in Clayton. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. There's no doubt. He improved, overcame the beginning of the year where he didn't play very good in the second half against Tech, and then he got hurt 2 games later and had to battle that injury for 3 or 4 games. But the way that he finished the second half of the season, tons of improvement. And he's really worked hard on his body, on his shape. He's incredibly intelligent, and probably the biggest key is we got better pieces around him right now. We got a more experienced offensive line. Got one of the most dynamic receivers in the country. Got Keyshawn Carter back, who was arguably one of our best players earlier in the year last year. Christian Trahan, and a whole bunch of receivers and running backs around him that I think can make plays. So he's got all the experience and he's got all the potential, and looking forward to watching him play his last year. There's something about those fifth-year seniors, about production and what you get out of them. His college career is going to be over here in about 5 months. So he's really, really in a good place, and he's really excited about the upcoming year.
Matt Musil, KHOU, please.
Hey, Dana, that's great to hear about Clayton. What excites you the most about this team? How it's developed coming off last season through spring, and what you've got to start here next week? What excites you the most about this team?
That we're old. That was the first year, we're old as as far as college kids go. We average around 22 years old per starter. So there's just that goes a long ways. That first year I was here with the whole red shirt thing, and getting people back on track from a degree perspective. The COVID year gave everybody another year. So we just got a very old veteran football team. So very player led. I've talked less in 2022 than I have the first 3 years, because we have captains. We have 8 captains right now that are all old and do a really good job of leading this team. So, the more of that they do, the better off our team's going to be. We talk a lot about what happens in the locker room. Coaches don't control anything that happens in the locker room. So you need a good nucleus of older guys, and we named 8 captains that are all pretty close to being done with their career here at Houston, and they're doing a great job of leading this team.
Thanks, Dana.
We'll go to Matt Baker from the Tampa Bay Times, please, for the next one.
Hey, Dana, you mentioned obviously the departure of Logan Hall a few minutes ago down here in Tampa. So I got to ask, when did you realize he could be a really special player?
He was a late bloomer. He had great size. I kid him all the time. My first year here, he was a sophomore, and the dude couldn't stay on his feet. He'd be rushing the passer, he'd be out of control, and he'd be on the ground all the time. And I'd kick him out of the drill and say, you need to learn to stay on your feet, or I'm going to move you to offensive tackle. And he'd just kind of laugh at me. And then when he came into the spring of his junior year, last spring, a year ago this time, you could tell in spring practice that this was a different guy. So, he was 6'6", 260 pounds, and, stayed on his feet the entire practice. And I would tell our D-line coach Brian Early and Doug Belk, I'd like, just don't even practice him anymore. I mean, 1, we can't get a playoff if he's in there, and 2, he's figured things out. So it was really spring a year ago, and then obviously had an unbelievable season last year. Supported him coming out early. I mean, we knew he was going to be a high draft pick, and landed at a good spot. I actually came to Tampa and watched one of the last games of the season last year in December. Grant Stewart is another one of our guys that's on that team down there in Tampa, and obviously watching the GOAT, Tom Brady was a highlight as well.
Go back to Joseph Duarte for another one, please.
Dana, what's the running back room look like for you? I mean, you get the loss of Alton, in the spring, but it seems like you've got some guys that you're going to seriously count on to sort of pick up the load there behind Taizon.
Yeah, first of all, with Alton, he's doing good. He's actually been cleared to run a little bit, so he's doing through all the Muscle Beach, but he's moving forward with his rehab progress, and proud of where he's at with that. Taizon Henry is the guy right now. Taizon's played a lot of football. Played a couple years at Texas Tech and was the featured guy at Texas Tech. For his second year that he was there, has played a lot of ball. He split time with Alton last year. However much Taizon can handle, he's going to get. Kind of the rest of them are wild cards. There's 4 or 5 guys behind him with like Stacy Sneed and Brandon Campbell and James Fulbright, a couple of guys that just haven't played a whole lot yet. So that's what camp's all about. We got one dude that's played a lot, and then the rest of them haven't played at all. So how much those guys progress, time's going to tell. If they don't, I just take the backs off the field and we'll go empty the whole time and just sling it around like the good old days. I don't want to do that, so we'll see which one of these backs step up.
Go next to Dan Tortora. Wake up call DT, please.
Coach, when you came into the conference for the American, you said that you had a lot of respect for the AAC from the outside looking in. Now that you've been on the inside, just what you can say about the level of competition and how you really truly feel about the conference being a part of it.
Yeah, it's a great conference. That first year, I think 6 of the teams in the league were ranked that first year. Pretty unbelievable schedule that we had to play that first year. And it's really a good league. I really worry. If you look at our schedule, it's challenging. Okay, we have to go in the league. We got to go 2 East Carolina, 2 Navy, 2 SMU, and 2 Memphis, and all 4 of those schools are really good at home. So we got our work cut out for us when it comes to that. Not to downplay anybody that we're playing at home or anything, but a lot of good quality teams. I guess the good news is we don't have to play Central Florida and Cincinnati unless it's a championship game situation, but just top to bottom, it's a good quality conference and continues to get better.
We'll take another from Mark Berman, please.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. We'll go to Chris Baldwin from Paper City then, please.
Dana, how have you seen Clayton in particular grow as a leader over the years, and how important is, at that position that, the quarterback embraces that role?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I met with the captains last week and we discussed this. We educate our guys throughout the course of the year on how to be leaders and how to be captains. And probably the most encouraging thing, the quarterback's always going to have that role and has to accept that role. But the more captain people we have around him, the less Clayton's going to have to do. And the less Clayton has to do, the more he gets to focus on being a quarterback. So Clayton's not a rah-rah guy. He's not going to, you're not going to say a whole lot. It's all business for him, which is what the quarterback position is supposed to be. He's supposed to execute. And the only way you can execute is if you have a clear mind and things around you are acting the way that they need to be acting. And so if you have other captain quality guys like Christian Trahan and Patrick Paul, older guys like Taizon Henry and Keyshawn Carter, Jack Freeman, those guys need to handle everything and make sure everybody's functioning in the right way. So that way Clayton can focus on execution and doing things that he needs to do as a quarterback.
We'll take the next one from Leo Haggerty, please.
Coach, the good news is a great majority of your players are from Texas. It's a hotbed of high school football. The bad news is you're fighting against probably a dozen other really good football teams.
how important for recruiting was it for you to have the best record in Texas last year?
That certainly didn't hurt. The good news, I mean, it's not just the 12 schools in Texas that are recruiting here. You can go East Coast to West Coast. I mean, all the way from California to Florida recruits down here in Texas. It's very competitive, but there's a reason why they're all here. You know, so there's a lot of guys that come down here that we battle against, and that's fine. You know, our recruiting strategies really hasn't changed since I've been here. Recruit them all, especially in Houston. If they choose to go somewhere else, don't be mad at them. Keep the relationship strong because they may want to come back. And we've seen that a lot, especially, you know, with Power 5 on the horizon for the University of Houston. A lot of the guys that would have came here out of high school, if that was the case, didn't. I respect that, wanted to go play Power 5, are coming back, you know. And so recruiting's never been as good as it is right now, you know. And I just think it's a combination of what the future is going to be for the University of Houston, having great staff continuity. Well, our whole staff's together for going on 4 years now, you know, and then you couple that with 12-win season and a great bowl victory against Auburn, then there's a lot of momentum here.
We'll go next to Matt Musil, please, for another.
Hey, Dana, more on Alton. You said he's cleared to run. What other kind of timetable do you have for him?
I have none. I mean, there's that conversation won't even be had for months and months. So, you know, the question is whether he's going to be able to come back for us. You know, I doubt that, you know, just kind of, you know, being smart about it. I doubt it. I don't know. That's not my call. If I wanted that to happen and the doctors say no, then the doctors are going to win out for sure. So we're interested in what's in the best for Alton and his future.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Trace Trilko for Sons of UCF for the next one, please.
Coach, for this to be a championship season for your team, what are you going to need from your defense?
Yeah, I'm glad somebody asked a defensive question here because I'm very proud of where we're at defensively. You know, Doug Belk did a great job in his first season as defensive coordinator. We got the whole defensive staff back. You know, we lost a couple of key players. You know, 4 guys in the NFL, and David Anini, Logan Hall, Pepe Williams, and Marcus Jones. You know, who are going to step up to take the place of those guys. I think we got a lot of options. You know, we got a lot of guys back. You know, do we have any first rounders out there? I don't know. We didn't know if Logan was going to be one, you know, last year as well. But we got a lot of numbers to choose from. A lot of transfers coming in, a lot of JUCO guys, a lot of young kids that now is their time. And that was my point with Cincinnati too. They lost 12 guys in the NFL, but I promise you they've been recruiting hard there for the last couple of years, and they got good players behind them. So who are the ones that are going to, you know, step up and take those places? That's why we start practice on next Thursday. And, you know, but I'm excited about where we're at defensively. You know, our staff's doing a great job. I think we've been recruiting at a high level. We got a plan, and looking forward to these guys continuing to play well.
Coach, one last question for you. You talked about the pieces that are surrounding Clayton Tune, and one of the biggest pieces is Nathaniel Dell. 90 catches last year. He's explosive. What makes him such a special wide receiver?
You know, we had some inside receivers, and so I had to play Nathaniel Tank outside. And he kept telling me, Coach, move me inside, move me inside. I'm like, well, okay, I'll make you a deal. I do some things with the formations to put you in the inside about probably half the time, but I just kind of need you outside most of the time. Once we moved him inside, you could just tell you can't cover him. He is an elite inside receiver. You know, he's not very big, so he could kind of get bodied on the outside a little bit. But when we started moving him around and getting him freed up, you couldn't cover him. So I've coached some pretty good inside receivers, and this one is elite. And, you know, he's 160 pounds, but you can't cover him. You can't touch him. He's got great ball skills. His nickname's Tank for a reason. He's tough. He's smart. He can play any position that we ask him to. I'm very proud of his development.